Today, Kevin Miner's segment will be used for enhancing your online journal content. Why an exact duplicate of your print product in a digital format can offer so much more. And we'll give some great tips for taking advantage of online technologies that can enhance your user's experience and extend the educational power of your content. Kevin Sagan is the manager of technical services at Allen Press. After an English degree at the University of Kansas, straight into the completely relevant years of experience with the design and implementation of digital products. Kevin contends that he knows too much about the technical aspects of online publishing to be any fun at parties. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Kevin now. Don't forget to use the chat box on the lower right of your screen to send in your questions.
First, I'd like to thank Joanna. My name 3 times, but that really was a wonderful. And we're ready to dive in. I'd like to do before we get started. I would emphasize the fact that online deliverables are basically just 2 different versions of your content. I'm not going to be the next 40 minutes talking about how online content should be completely different from your print content. What we're going to do is we're going to focus on how we can augment and weight the print in a format. I'm not trying to detract away from the print content. There are several things that print is much better than online, but that's not going to be the focus of this presentation. So I have a question today during this webinar. What does online do better than print? I think with a really simple one everybody can agree on, searching print publication is a little bit harder to do than in an online version of the content. And I'm going to make a distinguishment between what I consider to be digital contents, which would be a PDF that you might have on a local drive, versus online content, which would be shared through the web. And we'll talk a little bit more about that distinction as we go through this. Talking about digital content, the first thing with searching is it is a lot easier to find and search an entire article very quickly. Control-F for search for, or various incarnations of being able to search digital contents, be it a Word document, files, F, which is a very common deliverable, and readers have the ability to quickly find terms and phrases that you're looking for, and you could iteratively go through the process. I think, I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time talking about this. This is fairly self-evident. I think everyone is able to do, especially in our audience. So that for digital over, and take that content, we're going to extend it a little bit farther. Talk the difference between digital content and web content. One of the cool things about the World Wide Web is that it really is a web. They're connected to everything else. And one of the things, especially these days, one of the first pages that most people visit is a search engine. And as you can see here with this graphic, a Google Analytics report pulled one of our sites. And what I hear is that more than half of the people coming to a particular website. In fact, it's been months since we've seen anybody dip below 50% coming from a search engine. People are not visiting your home page. Most people are not linking out from another site. People, the 11.84%, those would be people directly typing in your domain name to get to your site. I do that because I don't trust bookmarks, but not a lot of other people do. So you'll see most people are going to find what they're looking for intermediary, normally a search engine. And of course, talking about search engines, we talk about the Google site. But I did Google the image. It is curious. Pervasiveness in the market really does lead to a viable online strategy as far as directing users to your website. What you see is that because Google is so pervasive that some people will sit there and Google do most of the work for them. You put an article into Google Scholar, and you expect researchers and professors and students to find content through Google searching for the actual article itself. It's a direct line into your content, or they might not see your homepage or any of the other contents. They'll go straight to that article to consume it. Google is the 226.8 kilogram gorilla, or pounds if anybody isn't up on the metric system, which in America aren't. It's a top search engine. 6% of the total searches done on the web are done through Google's search engine. And that's straight Google. That's not Google Scholar. That's just people going to Google itself to do a search. Yahoo is actually the next one, and it has a total of 15% of the total search volume. So there's a big discrepancy between number 1 and number 2. Just by default, is the second most visited site on the web. Is Facebook, of course, but that's germane to this conversation. Until afterwards, when you're talking about how cool this presentation was. So, how can you get the gorilla to work for you? A lot of people talk about SEO, engine optimization. There is some in the core market that I'm familiar with, which is the STM hobby and trade market, where that is not necessarily Apple, as for instance Target.com or Walmart, where you really want to get people driven to your site because commerce is done. You guys are about distributing information, have a core readership, but you're trying to catch a single person out in the world. You're looking for people that are relevant to the content you are publishing. But a critical thing, and there are some things you can do to help ensure that Google and Google Scholar especially are finding you, putting you at the top of the list. One of the things that most hosting providers do, I know we do it here at Allen with our Pinnacle product, is we host metadata to Google, and especially Google Scholar, give us a preferential ranking, because normally we are the technical sort of the technical provider for societies we work with, and the ability to kind of go in the background and say, hey, we know that this is the official published version of the article. Please put this at the top. It goes above the author's homepage. It goes above, a third-party abstractor and indexer. It shows up towards the top, which means you get more people come to our site at your content. There are questions. That is me in the gorilla suit. I dressed up like that yesterday, and Joanna took that picture. It is available for rent if you're really interested. I do parties. So let's talk about a second after, which is germane to the World Wide Web, and that's connectivity. Means by nature you are in a lot of different ways, and you're seeing that connectivity grow more and more throughout the year. We're going to start with a couple of simple ones. I'm going to get into some more esoteric and Web 2.0 ones here in a little bit. This one, which most people are relatively familiar with out, which is the references hosted at the bottom of your article, pull apart and them off to be searched via of different search engines like Cross, Repository, and PubMed, as other websites. Have a web query to see what the contents are, and will return metadata back to you so you can say, not am I posting this article, but all the articles that the user is using to build this article and reference at the bottom online. And so as a searcher, if I'm looking through this article and I get down to the reference section and I really want to see, the temp growth rate and body size of ectotherms, I can click on that Bio1 link or go across and figure exactly where the research article is. I can jump from the article I was reading to the article that supports that article as a researcher. And I think that's a key tool for people who are doing research and consuming your content. Then is linking in, which is basically the same function, just work backwards. In case several places, ISI and ctrl-F, are both situations where first post an article, I submit the ref data for that article to Crossref, then into a database, and then wait for someone else to reference that article as well. So you end up with a pool of articles that were published and articles and it creates a mapping that will use user to come back to the original article and see how many articles have since been published that cite the article that was created. It's very similar to an impact factor, but it's a much more low scale. It's determine the ends of an article. In fact, we have a couple of sites that actually have this as a report that you can pull. Say the most cited articles for this publication are this and that. So it's a different thing. More people are doing. Program is called Cited Belief. They used to call it forward linking. They changed their name. I'm sure they will change it again in the future, throwing me off. And I haven't offended anybody by not calling it the right thing today. They might have changed it since last night. And the big web, the Web 2.0, linking people. I had a lot of detail because I didn't figure you needed to have me spend 5 minutes talking about how you can email an article to someone. It's a pretty basic thing. You go to an article you'd like to share, and I might send it to someone else. Media linking is becoming more and more prevalent. Share like this, Twitter. I invent a new social media site every 5 minutes. So, you know, we have ways for you to distribute and disseminate our content through a third party. Basically, as a reader, I will come read your article and think it's important enough that I need to share it with all of my friends on book, and I will post that, which seems way to an article. In fact, we have seen that in the past. Another thing you can do to help with the online content, you can embed surveys. We see a lot of people where it's kind of an extension of a CME, or continuing medical education. Process would be where there would be a quiz at the end to help learn what you were supposed to learn during that article. Some people have actually even taken that and softened it a bit to say, you know, what did you think about this? What's your opinion? Some people do it for site design, but there's a lot of different ways to link in and kind of tap into your membership and your readership and figure out exactly what they think about things. Just to the discussion section or comments, replies, not official comment and reply that you would publish in a print article, but really a forum attached at the bottom of the article. I'm most familiar with online forums, and if you have ever been in an online forum, it should scare you to attach to an article. Both surveys and discussions are kind of a little bit tricky because you are letting people create content on your site that other people can see that you don't have a lot of control over. And if you do want to do something this, I would hope they'd find a way to create an editorial control to prevent that. We had a situation where someone had posted an article and someone had posted a post, a TED article with basically a rebuttal article. Not what you want to see as a publisher, as an author, and most as a reader either. So, about online content are multi-opportunities, things that people can do a lot of, but print can really kind of take off from there. It's about the medium. With Kerr, once the ink is down and dried, that content is forever static. Someone said, it was me actually just right now, so write it down. You can quote that. Paper has a lot of great qualities. A lot of people don't realize paper is a technology. It's a technology, and it does some things very, very well. It is sick. It doesn't change. As long as materials don't break down, the information stays correct and accurate. But it has one big technological gap, which is once it's been put on paper, it doesn't change. You might create another physical version of it later, post in a raw or to that effect, but if somebody has that one copy, then they don't know that that information has changed. Now, most of STM publishing has come up with ways to get around that because it's a fairly old practice. Go online offers interesting augmentations as far as multimedia is concerned, not just about the content itself. So great. We can things that can do. What really are the opportunities? What can we do? We're going to talk about on-only color, animations, adding audio, and modeling, which are just some of the things that you can do to augment your online stuff through this. So color is a hot topic when it comes to printing, based on the technology, on how you're doing the printing. Color costs money. I think that's across the board. If you want to print something in color, it's going to cost you more, at least that page, if not for that signature, if not for that whole. Then on the other hand, authors love color. Photography has exploded. I mean, 10 years ago, it's not like this is a new thing. But more missions we're seeing are actually coming in and getting converted to tones or black and white because the publisher doesn't want to pay to print the color. So around this, if there is an online version of that content, is print the non-copy, post the color online. So the PDF and HTML version of the article here that would have been black and white in print are actually color online, helping people see a little more of the stuff. Now, obviously, if you have a graph or table where color is important, don't stop doing that because blue and black look pretty much the same in black and white, as well as like gray and white. So obviously, if information is critical, or if information is critical, then don't stop doing that just because I told you on a webinar. A lot of people see this, especially with YouTube, video animation and adding that to your content. Some said a picture might be worth 1,000 words. Well, guess what? A 30-second movie contains 900 pictures. And in some cases, video animation, if used correctly, can convey information that you cannot do on paper. Studies, animal behavior studies are really good. I saw a good video somebody posted about bees and how when somebody disturbs their hive, they swarm around it and then they calm down eventually. That would be paragraphs of text to describe and probably wouldn't convey it very well. For radar data, for videos, people have put videos of lectures where that's the media that they feel like is good because of the organic nature of a normal university lecture. And anything else, when you post your conference proceedings, you can have embarrassing board members themselves at the end. Hand in hand with video and animation, you have audio. It's even a more unique thing. Samples can be used to convey data, difficult or impossible to convey via text. Like I spoke that, even though you could have read it. What is, especially speech pathology, and in some cases, again, going back to the animal songs and audio cues, really pop online. I know speech pathologists have come up with a methodology to talk phonetic, and I'm out of my base, so I'm probably not using the right terms, but they have to audio cues so people can read and understand what the author is saying. But there's nothing like actually being able to hear that through a podcast. Big thing that's basically just an audio file. They have a fancy name for it, but it's basically somebody talking, much like I am, as a disembodied head. People with no, so I'll find out about it later. But you have it through the rest of the thing. But 3D modeling. Adobe added a 3D viewer into their PDF software. So this is not 3D like the guy in the glasses would contain, but it is something that a lot of disciplines that are already working with 3D or three-dimensional data with access to and could potentially embed in their content. I have an example of this, and I'm going to try and switch over to that. Yep, I'm going to switch my up. I'm going to example from one of my clients, the angle orthodontist, had a PDF. They posted a PDF online that looks like a normal article. I'm not going to read it very fast because there might be copyright considerations. But what they do have is 3 data, like this heath right here. I hope. And you can't really see very well. But 3D model. You can spin around, you can zoom in. You can get a level of detail right there. Sorry. Normally see. Access to user you wouldn't normally have. A level of data that has not been seen in print before. It's a fairly simple example, but we've seen examples of geological data being presented in a 3D map. And like those are the 2 disciplines that I know that use 3D modeling. I think everybody something. Screen. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All the multimedia opportunities, there is one thing to consider: content. We have people that have come to us and asked questions about, how do I do this? How do I do that? And a lot of times the answer is the technology exists to do this, but the authors of content itself have to be sourced. You have to figure out who's going to create this multimedia stuff. Do you ask an author to do it? Sometimes authors don't know anything about how to do this. Should the society do it? There's a publisher. Should they take care of it? And if you always find a learner or a grad student, then that's who gets picked. What we end up normally having is you put that question and then you have a kind of a series of hot potato where he tries to figure out who's going to make the fancy things and keep with production schedules. It's possible, but before you start going down that road, you really should figure out where responsibility is going to lie. You big and hire Industrial Light and Magic. There's some really good work. I think some of you might have seen some movies. They have modeling, video, and they do audio too pretty well. So, there for them. I'm going to get a very large check, I hope, but maybe not. Supplement materials. More publishers to include original research data as a supplement to the article. That the research article itself, series of results derived from data collected by the author, and it's a concise. And what we mean with online hosting being as it is more and more people are posting the original data. Supplement. Oh wait, it's actually the wrong kind of supplements. There you go. As you see that supplement material link there. The rationale behind this, in some cases, it's the only way to preserve valuable data, so it's not lost to time. And in some cases, it's also a springboard for other researchers to take that data and derive their own results, build off of it, and come up with their own results. 2 methodologies behind this: supplementary materials being hosted along the main article, like that link that I showed you on that previous website or web slide page, sorry, where you literally look at supplementary material the same time you're looking at the article, and then in fact, in some cases, like the Ecological Society of America has posted a data archive, and Triad, which is a third-party repository for supplemental data, they did a feature-rich archive for hosting supplementary data, search and linked to the original articles. What you're doing is you come across, so consider whether you go with one or the other. You need to for your audience. We've dealt with this quite a bit here. One of the things that has come up quite often is that no one wants to download 1.2 gigabytes worth of supplemental data in order to see what you were talking about. You need to keep your file sizes sane. We have worked with some people to come up with recommendations. I think one last one we saw was it's megabytes one way or the other. If you have 10 gigabyte files or 150 megabyte file, matter, but each is a gigabyte limit. And kept by the publisher society that is kind of saying, no, we got to cut the limit somehow. These that are big can always be redistilled into other formats where the information is kept, but the file format is reduced. You might have to work with others to do that. Movies, especially, keeping file types same. Not everyone has access to expensive and discipline-specific software. Have 3D geological data in a 3D software suite that only geologists can afford through an institution. Shouldn't probably expect my grandmother to be able to read that and open up that file. Normally see as the typical things. When you get a new computer, if the software is on it already or it's easy to get off of the internet, free, you want to support. Files, Crime, Windows Media, Flash, those are the types of things you look for. The thing is, you shouldn't expect a reader to go out and spend $500 in order to look at a piece of supplementary data. The other thing that has come up, especially recently with the NISO organization, not supplemental files. It works ways. You really need to, as an editorial function, determine whether or not that supplemented data should be in the article because it is key to that article, and the reason just was not included. In some cases, if it's not even really supplemental, it's extra information that isn't necessary and should be included with that article. There needs to be a clear connection between that supplemental data. Authors be submitting just anything they can in order to get it published. And obviously, on a case-by-case basis, that could be very call on your part. Topic we're going to talk about is the flexibility that online publishing gives you. Once you're bound to print conventions, several questions can come up. What type of content can go on online? I've been working in online publishing for 1.5 years, up to 12 for the BOM. And traditionally, we have done hardcore, technical, and medical online. And you'll see it. I'm going to share my desktop again. There we go. Any journal site, something like this. You have, it's been pulled apart. You have a PDF that's posted. That's just like the print content. You have a full text representation or data alongside of it. There's a lot of deep structure into it. There's a lot of interlinking. The citation and the citation linking I was talking about earlier is built into the system. There's a lot of concepts built into this. Download Citation Manager. That's important if you expect someone to consume an article and cite it, a tool that researchers use. What we've seen recently is that there's been an explosion of technology that allows other types of publications to be posted online. I typically really high publications, which are typically very design heavy, and content is not necessarily able to be pigeonholed into what we would consider to be a traditional research publication. And we have situations where technologies come up, where everybody has seen some kind of version of this, where a article is created, loaded on, and basically set up so that you could browse it as if you had a paper copy in hand. Which kind of against what I was talking about earlier, where the whole point of online is not to replicate print, but in some cases, this is a good way to capture information. You have design-heavy publication. It was very painful to create something that's very pretty on paper and then have to, like I said, pigeonhole it into a product that made it look very structured and academic. What this allows you to literally spend the same amount of dollars that you spent create a copy and created an online copy, which then could actually be augmented. Trying to find our URL linking. You had Flash, movie, audio clips, all of the things we've talked about. Some of the connectivity things that we talked about earlier could be built into this. Tools, you can sit, and as if you were, you can download it, you can create a PDF from it. Some of you might have received this. It's just an example. Technology works. There are to email, scan, printed out, all this other stuff. So it really opens up an entire new publication to this type of online market, which is nice, and it gives every to put their online. Where traditionally you might have been to just create a simple website and post PDFs and have people browse it that way. Look at the next question, and this is not a new one. This has been something that the industry has been struggling with, and is finally, I think, kind of righted itself. When was published? The print is no longer the only recognized version of record. That opens up a lot of things we're going to talk about here in a second. But the real shift in STM publishing, that it has to be on paper before it has really been published, was impediment to things like preprints and web content, online-only journals as a whole. Though there are still some organizations that we have to create copies to send to them, but they are getting fewer and far between. When is actually ready to be published? And we're about preprints specifically. Preprints are designed to leverage online publication strengths, often at the expense of traditional publication conventions. That just now, so some of this. Preprint call to question: do we define? Should we define quality? A simple little graph I made a long time ago to kind of explain, gamut of options that are available when talking about publication online. It's a conversation we have with everybody that we partner with, and say, okay, look, the minimum amount of time and the acceptable amount of quality that it's going to take before you're comfortable posting online. Some studies we've talked to are, as soon as that content has gone through peer review and we have deemed it scientifically correct, I don't care copy editing errors. If it isn't branded quite the way, I want to get that content as a service to my authors, and they do that accepted manuscript. And basically, at any point in between that and when the article is finished, we can draw preprint out, and most people will. It risks, the more time you spend into it, the better it's going to look. I hope most scatter will work that way. You see is that at the very top of that graph, the published is the very thing, and a lot of times you'll see people beating that. But in fact, I actually had seen somebody publish a preprint 270 days. The version was actually printed. That has to do with the amount of backlog publication might have. You might have a publication that is running 2 years in the future as far as submitted manuscripts and the amount of budget they have to physically put this on paper. Growing, some of them have been a concern for quite a while. They're a huge boon for societies with that because it allows them to use their authors. Authors are concerned about getting published. Online is considered to be published at this point for circles. I think there's still some dissension. But it's okay to say, hello, it's brilliant for an author. But anyway, this online, 2 days from when you say it's good for me to publish, and it takes me 150 to publish it in a print article, you still, when said article, it will be published this year and not next year, for instance. Some people will preprint something that's like 15 days from being final, and some people will do it well in advance of the print copy. Another kind of an extension of what we were just talking about is why print everything. To handle backlog is not to do preprints, because sometimes you don't want to sacrifice that quality, but it literally is that you have articles to publish, you only have the budget and space for 15. So you push that issue as a 15 article print issue and a 20 article online issue. Web only content. to be used with an online-only journal, but it really is kind of straddling the fence between an all-print and all-online journal. And it's a very economical method that people are kind of using to help manage the backlog. You shouldn't put a article print journal in 100. There's some rationale that you probably should cut the limit and kind of pace yourself. You don't just dump everything, but it is a viable method to handle that backlog. Another thing comes up often: why read print online? There are actually several things that you do that you don't need to do online anymore. Do is a self-contained object and have all of the information in it, because you have to expect that your reader only one copy. They have an entire catalog of your stuff and don't know who your editorial staff is, even though that staff might not have changed for 3 years since the rollover. Ted has a lot of information that is just repetitious. And it's based on the fact that a copy has to have it in there, otherwise people will have that information. The structure authors often don't change for years and years and years. Another thing that comes up, an author in a subject index makes notes online when you have a search engine. There's no reason to recreate an index, which is a very paper-based thing. You can't search paper. Of course, what about self? We had an issue as a printing convention. It is effective to publish articles in a relatively static period of time. You could literally print every article at a time, but it is cost prohibitive. It was designed and invented a long time ago because people wanted to do or run something or it up and give it to people. There are some publishers that organize content by an issue topic, but I think just about a tutorial, which is really just these are the articles we could publish in May, and they've got another batch that we'll publish in September. So, especially with preprints, web-only content, the issue is starting to waver and change. And so this issue is published online only because an organization is required to be an issue. They expect an issue in a article journal. And some people have foregone it completely and they post by volume. And that volume is literally just based on the year that it was printed in or online in. Both only titles have that kind of question to go through. So, the topic, mobile. I'm kind of low on time, so I'm going to speed through some of this. Most of this stuff is just infographics anyway that I've stolen. Borrowed. Looked online. First line is already mobile. Individual issues are mobile by definition. If they weighed 300 pounds, nobody would read them. Also, it's a very good way to kill a fly, but really hard to move your entire corpus, which is normally what people shoot for with an online site. About online mobile, meaning delivered to a mobile device. The Nielsen infographic that was published actually earlier this year, the media universe. Now, the purple side, or the blue, depending on your monitor, is not something we're going to really care about. That's cable television, and we all know it's dead. But the blue side on the other thing, that's the market. If you see this, there are 83.2 million people in America that have and use a waveable mobile phone. That's not very smartphones, but they're actually pretty close. And that to be 115 million households that have at least one television in them. Really expanding market shown by Microsoft actually, as part of their initiative, published an infographic, which is a very, very long graphic. I couldn't include it because it would have been a narrow gray stripe down one side of this point. But they had a couple of interesting things about mobile, as all of you probably already read. They're saying that by 2014, mobile internet usage should take over desktop internet usage. We might be doing a PowerPoint in 2015 off of a phone instead of a laptop like I'm doing it right now. and I think anybody that has watched cable television or seen ads, they are advertising the heck out of mobile device. I think someone comes out with a new phone every 20 seconds. People have seen jokes where you get a phone and then there's a new phone that comes out 20 later. It's the late 80s, early 90s. Everything is changing very, very quickly. It stabilizes, but because there's a lot of money, because there's a lot of opportunity in that market, people are flooding in and capture it as quickly as possible. Can you take that mobile market and get into it? How do you capitalize on that? Well, we've identified 3 different methods that are in use today. These are not, as the little note says, they're not every single method's made. I've kind of bucketed them into distinct groups in order to speed this discussion along. Strategy is a mobile optimized version of the full site. There is full site. You are recreating the entire website on a mobile platform. What you'll see is there are GUI user interface changes that need to be made. The screen is smaller. It's optimized for smaller screens. In some cases, some technology allows you to upload PDFs, 2 or 3 column PDF, and stream it into a 1 column PDF so that you can just scrolling down your phone. The aim is definitely to be just like the original website, smaller. This is a mobile site. It's not an app. It's something you download through the App Store or through the Android marketplace. 2 is really about discovery and social tools. So this G is not about consuming the content. It's about finding it for consumption later. If you will, it's similar to bookmarking a page because you want to read it later, but you have time to right now. Focus is really on search, shipping, discovery, really ever. And in fact, the IEEE Explorer device, or the thing that I looked at here, it's about consumption. It doesn't let you read the article. It just lets you find it and flag it so you get it on a bigger screen later. And actually could be either an app or a full-fledged mobile site. And the preference of the people that are making the strategy is the building a mobile app, basically. Mobile are interesting. A lot of people use that and with a mobile website. And itself is a piece of software that is specifically designed to do a certain thing. The mobile apps are ones that are targeted to a 1 or 2 functions, for society-based things. So think about a discipline-specific database, information. So I download a database, so I have that in the field. And an annual conference scheduler. I've picked these 5 things, and I have my phone with me. I went to a printing convention in April this year, and they had a 300-page conference book, and the schedule on it was on the back cover. So I carried that 300-page thing around, which, I mean, they're printers. That's what they do. Places people might want to just have that on their phone and go, okay, well, I need to now go to this room for this seminar. A news or notification app. It would alert you when new thing has been posted on the content. It's similar to an RSS feed, but it's built specifically for joining the idea of I've got new content published, but also I have marketing pieces or initiatives that I want to push out to a readership as well. The goal, again, is it's aimed to fill some specific need. As it is an app, it's not a mobile site. It's built, most of the time there's functionality built into it that you can't recreate over the web or slow or whatnot. There's some with building apps, mobile apps. I don't know if you guys are aware, but if you build one for an iPhone, you have to build another one for Android and another one for BlackBerry, although I wouldn't waste my money on that one. And every time, Apple's really good about changing the iOS format, and then you have to rebuild the app again. All of those cost money. You have to constantly be, software development. Whether you realize you're getting into that or not, you're going to have to keep going back to the till and getting more money to take care of that. So, I have a joke here I forgot, so that was funny. But how soon before some doctor gets sued for leaving his iPhone in a patient? So for research and accidentally lays it on your spleen and then forgets about it, sews you up there, and the phone rings and you can't get it. So with that image, we're pretty much done. One last thing, I'm going to reiterate what I said at the very beginning. There are just two types of content deliverables. How to define them? Good to you. So I am done with the presentation. I think we're ready to move in. I'll let Joanna kind of help us with that.
Thank you, Kevin. We do have some questions that were added in while you were talking. And of course, if you have questions that you haven't yet chatted in, go ahead and do that now. First question I have for you, Kevin. Can you address the new rules for Google Scholar regarding not indexing unless they receive the first page as a PDF?
No. I have not had a chance to research that fully. I do know that that has been sent out. I do think that that is to help mitigate the issue that I was talking about with Google Scholar in the beginning, which is that as long as you have that backdoor, you can kind of make it work. But I know that as it's grown in popularity, more and more people are admitted and indexed by that, and I can imagine that they want to kind of end off and vet. I mean, I have a PDF of an article that I purchased through pay-per-view. I didn't publish. I didn't author. I submitted it to Google Scholar now, and this is mine. And I think one of the reasons why they want PDF is to kind of help make sure that people are really serious about submitting. It's not a great answer. I'd like to follow up with whoever.
Sure, I can get you information. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So a related question then is, how do you get Google to recognize your preferential ranking?
A lot of that has to do with, we have a relationship here with Google, and they have ways to influence that. Google Scholar is really the one we're talking about influencing your preferential ranking. You know, if your home page, it's going to go up by how relevant it is to the search that somebody did and popular it is. It's searched. I mean, one of the thing that Google has done the last couple of years is that autocomplete. That when you can some very interesting things, but all that stuff is driven over what actual people have written in to Google, and all that has to do with that. So you can't necessarily influence your Google rankings. You know, if you're a autologist organization and there are 100 of them, and you might not be able to get to the top of that in light of people searching and then following those links. That's how Google rankings kind of works. Now, there are a couple of backdoor ways that we can talk about public line, but it's the Google one is really, I'm primary publisher. They have a way to say, I am the primary publisher, pay attention to me for this article.
Okay. So I have a question about social media. I'm putting content online using different social media tools. How do I protect that content?
That's a really good question. And you see there that it really gets down to access control for the article. So let's say, for instance, you have an article posted online and you create a Facebook share link. Now people can post a article, but it isn't actually. I mean, Facebook is very, very good about protecting copyright. They put a min up. The site itself controls what you actually see on your wall or on your news post. When people get a link, if they come back to your site and they're not challenged, so again, open access, then you really, you're seeing the problem that has been around since the web started, and you had, and you could have an infinite number of copies, for instance. It's not like it's a new problem, it's just a different way to address the same problem, which is how do I keep my content, and only let the people that I feel like are supposed to read it. And that's access control, DRM. It's not something that Facebook or can do. If really nothing to protect you other than copyright law, if somebody goes in there, for instance, copy all the text out of the PDF and post it to Facebook. There wasn't anything years ago if they did that and posted it to a website. It's made it a little bit easier.
I am posting just a link on Facebook, though, and that links back to my site, and whatever access control I have on my site is going to still be in place.
Yes, a normal user will come and hit the paywall, the thing that asks them to log in, ensure that they're supposed to see this content. Most places that host online content will have some kind of abstract version, and in some cases you want to, talk about pay-per-view or single article purchase. Those people that want to read the article but don't have a subscription. An excellent opportunity. You have people coming to your site that get in. You want to catch those people and try and convert them as much as possible. Get a subscription out of them. Get a single article purchase out of them.
I want to host a mobile site for my content. Do I need to have two websites, or is my single website mobile? How does that work?
It's a good, hard answer to that. There's what I would recommend.
Go ahead with your recommendation.
I recommend that you author and post once and review twice. I mean, there would only be one site. Anytime where you have two copies of something floating around, you run into problems with version control. Let's say you post a correction to an article and you kind of forget to do it on your mobile site, or something happens, or, an article gets for horrible reach X problems, and you forget to pull it from the mobile. It just makes things a little simpler. Sites you see are really either just tangential parts to the full website, or the stream from the full website. It's literally like a cousin, I guess, is the best way to put it. They are intimately related.
Okay. Can you discuss the connection between cited by reference linking and impact factor? Yes.
I touched a little bit on this during the thing, but I think that's a good thing to expand on. Impact factor, as far as I'm familiar with, and that I don't spend all day reading about this kind of stuff, based on the number of articles that you publish versus number of articles that you've published have been cited. There's obviously a lot of mitigating circumstances and other things, but it's on a journal basis. You don't have an impact factor for an article. The cited articles functionality actually trying to do that to extent. I think it does have stipulations where, an editorial or obituary doesn't count as a real article. Cited article, if for some reason you're citing an obituary, then it's going to show up in that report. Also, print an obituary, especially if that person is not dead yet.
Okay, it looks like that's all the questions that we have for today. So I want to thank Ken and everyone who attended the webinar. I do hope you enjoyed today's presentation and that you'll consider trying some of Kevin's ideas for your online journal content. We will be sending out a brief survey that will include links to both the slides and the video recording of today's session. Do take a few moments to complete the survey. Of course, we're always looking for feedback on how we can improve future webinars and suggestions for future topics. And again, you can continue the conversation on Facebook. That's our session for today.